What's good, yo? Welcome back to another edition of Halito by High Country News. I'm Michael Leviton, and let's see what's new. Last Monday, ConocoPhillips' massive Willow Oil project was approved by the Biden administration, despite substantial concerns about the project's environmental impact.
No more drilling on federal land.
Victoria Petersen writes that the Willow project is expected to extract 629 million barrels of oil over the course of a 30-year lifetime, more than any other public lands fossil fuel development in the U.S.
No more drilling.
In 2020, the Trump administration approved the Willow Project's original environmental impact statement, which was later found inadequate by a federal judge for having inadequate protections for wildlife.
The oil industry pollutes.
While many Alaskan Native groups do support the project, leaders of the community closest to the project, the city and native village of New Iqsut, also say the consultation process and mitigation measures are completely inadequate. The project could impact the Inupiat village with increased noise, light and chemical pollution, and disruptions to indigenous food security. Sure, it'll create jobs for non-locals and certainly produce more fossil fuels, but at the expense of local indigenous communities' connection to the land. And a few broken campaign promises.
I said, we're going to need oil for at least another decade.
Department of Interior under Secretary Deb Haaland has actively encouraged co-stewardship and co-management of public lands by tribal nations. But no such partnership has yet been formed in the state of Wyoming. So what would that even look like? Taylar Stagner sat down with Yufna Soldier Wolf, who is leading the first effort in the state to build a co-stewardship relationship between the Bureau of Land Management and the tribes of Wyoming. Anyone who's ever worked on a group project knows that shit can get messy. Not only would this be the first joint stewardship in the state, but it could include as many as 36 tribes and include areas that haven't even seen a BLM conservation plan in 30 years. And speaking of hurdles, co-stewardship would also include the BLM. Soldier Wolf tells us about the goals of co-stewardship and the cultural significance of some of the included areas, including oral histories, plant knowledge, and wildlife, among other things. Let's hop on over to Montana, where Kylie Mohr writes about how a mining company has found a potentially lucrative area for, obviously, mining, specifically rare earth elements, which are used in modern tech like cell phones, computers, and greenwashing capitalism's greatest hit yet, electric vehicles. The mine wouldn't be operational for years. The company still wants to do exploratory test drilling, and the proposed operation would have to go through a federal environmental review process to assess potential impacts on local communities and land, wildlife, and so on. It's part of a larger Western mineral rush for such elements and minerals, fueled in part by a tax credit for electric vehicles that utilize domestically sourced components. Which means, of course, you can expect to see plenty more stories like this in the future. Hop on over to hcn.org for these stories and even more. You can find us all over social media at High Country News, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter while it's still working. Catch y'all next week.